he will open the portal and bring about.
Hello folks, welcome back to the nook of the internet we call Marvelous Videos, where we're committed to bringing you the best nerdy and geeky content there is. Today, we're looking at Hellboy, a very underrated anti-hero with equally underrated movies. The recent reboot of the Hellboy franchise has forced all fans to reminisce about the original Hellboy movies, starring Ron Perlman and directed by Guillermo del Toro, which were initially planned as part of a trilogy. So what happened to the third film? Why wasn't it ever made? Let's try and find out. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Who is Hellboy? For the uninitiated, Hellboy is actually a Cambion, or a half-demon named Anung Unrama, brought to Earth from Hell by Nazis when he was still a baby. Eventually, he grows up to be a red-skinned, gigantic biped, with cut-off horns that make it look like he's wearing sunglasses on his head, and a tail. He begins to work for the Bureau of Paranormal Research and Defense in the United States, and starts hunting down paranormal foes and criminals. Hellboy is the brainchild of Mike Mignola, and first made his appearance in August 1933, featuring in the second issue of San Diego Comic-Con Comics, published by Dark Horse Comics. Enter Del Toro. Guillermo del Toro soon became interested in the Nazi fighting demon and began talks with Mike Mignola to adapt the comics into live-action films. Together they decided on Ron Perlman to take on the titular role, as Del Toro had collaborated with him before and believed he would be capable of achieving the feat. Unfortunately, things weren't as easy even with the first movie. Many film studios refused to fund the movie, claiming that it was too violent, while others didn't want to be associated with any superhero movies or movies based on comics. This was back in 1998, when Marvel and DC movies didn't garner collections like they do now, and studios were still skeptical of superhero movies. Many other studios didn't like the fact that Perlman was cast in the movie, and others hated that the title had hell in it. In 2004, they began filming, finally receiving backing from Revolution Studios, Lloyd Levin Productions, and Dark Horse Entertainment. The movie received moderate success in its theatrical run, but home media is where Hellboy made a home run. The sales of Hellboy DVDs topped the charts, with sales of more than 500,000 units. In 2008, a sequel was released for the movie titled Hellboy 2: The Golden Army. The movie's success was similar to its predecessor, with fans expressing their eagerness for a third film. Hope for Hellboy 3. Guillermo del Toro had expressed his interest in a threequel, promising to give closure to Hellboy. The next year, around June 2010, del Toro hinted at the final movie in the franchise, promising to work on the script. Radio silence followed that for 2 years, till in 2012, Ron Perlman donned the full costume and makeup of Hellboy for a sick child. As part of Make-A-Wish, del Toro had announced that he had begun work for Hellboy 3. While fans held on to that hope, it all began to crash in 2013, when Mignola said definitively that there is no Hellboy 3. But del Toro was strong in his resolve, telling fans that he and Perlman were united in making Hellboy 3 happen. In a Reddit Ask Me Anything, del Toro further expanded on the story of Hellboy 3, stating that they would be looking into the inevitable destiny of Hellboy. Del Toro intended Hellboy to embrace his destiny as the beast of the apocalypse, and have him and Liz, his love interest, confront parts of his nature that had remained hidden. The movie would further explore Hellboy turning into a darker being for the greater good and to save humanity. Del Toro also commented that it would be an interesting end to his story, promising audiences that this movie will be darker than the previous two. But 4 years later, on a fated day in February 2017, del Toro tweeted out that there wasn't going to be any more Hellboy movies. So why did Hellboy 3 not get made? There are many reasons why Hellboy 3 wasn't made. Let's explore all of them. A. The Curse of the Hobbit. Guillermo del Toro was deep in Middle-earth, adapting J.R.R. Tolkien's 1937 fantasy novel The Hobbit into 2 movies, which were intended to be faithful to the books. But after problems with MGM Studios, he decided to drop out. In his stead, Peter Jackson took over, adapting The Hobbit into a trilogy that shattered Tolkien fans. This delay has been stated by many to have been the turning point in the Hellboy franchise. B. Funding snafus. The first Hellboy was shot with $60 million, while the sequel cost around $85 million. The approximate budget for the third film was a whopping $120 million. Since the first movie didn't even make $100 million throughout its theatrical run, studios were not willing to take the risk. Although the movies were not box office failures, they weren't super successful either, which failed to attract film studios. Del Toro told fans that earlier, he could show both the profits of the theatrical run along with the sale of home videos to claim the budget. Unfortunately, by the early 2010s, ends, home media had started to decline thanks to the boom of Netflix, and it was no longer a safety net for production houses. Despite getting rejected from major production houses, Del Toro still held on hope, as Legendary Studios, which produced the Pacific Rim movies, gave him complete creative control over Pacific Rim and promised to fund Hellboy 3 if the sequel to Pacific Rim was successful. Unfortunately, Del Toro had to step away from Pacific Rim Uprising, as producers weren't punctual in their payments and he had to prioritize The Shape of Water, which was also under production at the same time. Needless to say, Pacific Rim Uprising was released in 2018 and bombed spectacularly. Anyway, the deal had already become redundant with Del Toro dropping out. C. Growing troubles with the creator. As is sometimes unavoidable when two creative minds work together, Guillermo del Toro and Mike Mignola butted heads on a variety of topics. When asked about Hellboy 3, Mignola had been resolute in his stance that it wasn't going to happen, reasoning that both him and del Toro had gone their separate ways. He spoke very fondly of the time he spent with the director when del Toro hadn't yet achieved his star status, even saying that they kept in contact through emails, but Mignola did not deny that they had both moved on from Hellboy. When asked about the animosity between them, Mignola had denied it, saying that creative differences had arisen between them, but they did not hate each other and always respected what the other one was doing. Mignola also pointed out that many comic creators do so with the hopes of starting their filming careers, and del Toro was happy that Mignola wasn't the kind of guy to cling to del Toro's heels to make a name for himself in the cinema industry. Mignola had also said that he was not a film guy, and he created comics because he genuinely loved them and was passionate about them. This was clearly a lie, as we can all see his involvement in the new Hellboy movies. Although Mignola was so outspoken about the lack of hate in his heart toward del Toro, rumors about Hellboy 3 tell a different story. Reports claim that Mignola, along with the producer Lawrence Gordon, had planned on completely replacing del Toro to shoot Hellboy 3, but Ron Perlman refused to star in it if del Toro didn't direct it and walked away. Guillermo del Toro really liked the idea they had come up with for Hellboy 3 and wanted the story to be written. He even asked that the story be produced into a comic when studios failed to support him, but Mignola, who hated the story and despised its deviation from the source material, did not agree to this idea. The failed reboots. After Perlman's refusal to work without del Toro, Mignola paired up with writers Andrew Cosby and Christopher Golden, and director Neil Marshall to reboot the franchise. David Harbour, who had gained fame during that time thanks to his role as Jim Hopper in Stranger Things, was hired to put on the red skin and become Hellboy. The idea looked excellent on paper, but reality was another story. Hellboy flopped terribly. Harbour blamed Marvel fans, saying that they were expecting a big-budget movie, and fans of the del Toro version for dismissing the film without giving it a chance. Meanwhile, Marshall completely disowned the film, telling everyone who would listen that he'd been lured in with the promise of directing a darker horror version of Hellboy, but had been given no creative freedom. Marshall all but spat on the script, saying that you can never polish a turd. Yikes. Mignola was surprisingly not disheartened with the review, and wrote another script with Christopher Golden. In 2024, Millennium Media rebooted Hellboy again, with the movie Hellboy the Crooked Man, this time with director Brian Taylor at the wheel and Jack Kesey as Hellboy. This movie didn't see much box office success either. Although $20 million were invested for its production, it managed to earn only $2 million. Say what you will about Mignola, but that man does not know when to quit. Marvelous verdict. Whether you blame the studios or Mignola, in the end, it was the fans who got robbed of a spectacular film. After all these failed reboots, maybe the studios will finally come to their senses and hire del Toro. Despite the passage of time, Perlman and del Toro have never said that they would not return to make Hellboy 3, if the stars aligned. Many fans have forsaken these dreams, as Perlman is 74 years old and might not want to star in an action movie with heavy makeup anymore. But given the advancement of CGI and motion capture, it might not be that hard for him to be Hellboy one last time. So let's keep our fingers crossed and hope for Hellboy 3, so we can all get the closure we've been yearning for. Do you think the movie still has any chance of being made? Why or why not? Let us know in the comments. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone!